Hey there, I'm Jim Edgar, and I wanted to talk to you today about a recent update for Twisted Wave. This is version 28.6, which came out right at the end of March of 2023. I guess if you're not watching this in 2023, that might be helpful. Now, version 28.6 seems to be pretty trouble-free. I didn't receive any kind of notifications from clients or other voice actors that it was causing trouble. But as always, your mileage may vary, so you want to be careful on that. Now, as we see in the alert for this, there are a couple little bug fixes which Thomas took care of in this update. But up top where it says new, we see two interesting features that were not in Twisted Wave prior to version 28.6. The top one is this 32-bit float option for creating a new file. Now, I'm not going to play with that too much today. If you look for another video where I'm utilizing some newer 32-bit float hardware, that does come into play, so we'll come back to that in a separate video. But today what I wanted to talk about was this addition to the markers menu, which is this move markers function. Now, I think that the markers are actually one of the most helpful tools that are in Twisted Wave. You can use them for a lot of different things in terms of outputting different segments of your file, for naming different files, and it's grown quite a bit over the years from just the basic add a marker feature. We should know that we can add a marker by typing the M key. That's our keyboard equivalent for it. We can also add a marker simply by clicking up in this top row above the timeline. And this is, of course, movable. I can slide that around anywhere I need it. So I'm going to put it right here at the beginning of the file. If I wanted to, I could double click on that and call this beginning. And remember how to type. There we go. Call this beginning. And if I am playing through something, I can hit the M key, do the same thing. So I could put 3 or 4 different markers in this particular audio file that I have here. Now, in the past, what we have always had the ability to do was grab a marker by the little triangle up in the top and drag it around. If we go to the markers menu and go to markers window, we can actually reposition our markers too. So if we're clever with a bit of typing, we could change this to 65 or 45. So I could move that just by doing that. And then when I come back here, we see that that in fact has moved to the 45-second mark where it was up at 55-second before. But it's a little bit of a difficult way to adjust things. Now, with the new move markers tool in the markers menu, we get this nice little option window right here that lets us move things left, move things right, move things all the way to the left and all the way to the right by a discrete number of seconds. I honestly forget what the default was. It might have been 2 seconds or so. One thing that we want to be mindful of is right away we need to know that we cannot type a leading decimal point. So if I type decimal point on the keyboard, which you can't see happening on screen because it doesn't work, what we have to actually do is put in a leading 0. So if I want to move things by a quarter second, for example, I would put 0.25 and it would take that. So we do want to be a little bit careful when we're typing in numbers. Since it doesn't take that decimal point, we might type 0.45 and we've added 45 seconds rather than 0.45 seconds. So just something to be mindful of when we're using this particular tool. Now, if I want to move it left by 2 seconds, I enter 2, I hit enter, and lo and behold, everything moves 2 seconds to the left, which is interesting. The first time you open this tool, it appears to be a global setting, so that if I move things now 2 seconds back to the right, there they go, they've all moved 2 seconds back. What's interesting is that if I highlight just a section of the audio, the move markers menu now gives me the option to only move markers from the selection. So this seems to be a little context specific in terms of how we might use this. So in this case, I've highlighted the area where these 3 markers are. I'm going to move them 3 seconds to the left. And there they all jumped. You'll notice that marker 2 right here actually moved out of the selected area, but it did in fact move with the other 2. Now, if I move the markers in the selected area back to the right, because this marker 2 moved out of my selected area, it did not move back with the others. Luckily, this does respond to our best friend, undo. So if we get in trouble, get stuff in the wrong place, it is undoable. We can undo all of the move markers. Of course, Twisted Wave supports multiple undos, so we can go pretty far back if we need to. The other two options that we have are move all the way to the right and all the way to the left. In this case, what it's doing is taking the position of your either the rightmost marker or the leftmost marker and moving that particular marker all the way to the right. In this case, because I'm moving things to the right, it's going to take the position of marker 3 and move things all the way to the end of the file. So marker 3 is way over here. I can just sort of squeeze it out on the right-hand side. Can't quite see it, but you can know it's over there. I can kind of grab that and pull that back just to prove the point. But this was pushed all the way to the end of the file. Conversely, if I decide to move all the markers all the way left, it's going to use the position of the first marker in the file and move that to the left and bring everything up by the same amount. The other functionality that it has, which is kind of interesting, is I can, if I've selected an area, say that I select this right here and copy it, so I just hit Command C or just went up here to copy. Now when I move the markers, it will let me, if I'm moving them right or left, I'm going to move these right now, it will let me use the selection size and the clipboard size. Now the clipboard size and the selection size right now are the same because I haven't clicked elsewhere to deselect that. In this case, because I have nothing selected, it lets me only use the clipboard size. So if I do that, I move things rather than it moving, well, it looks like it has 3 seconds here. So how do I use the clipboard size? Well, I click on that, and that changes my position, which I had typed in the 3, to the size of what I selected, which is 9.913604 seconds. And I can move everything by just that amount. If I know that I have a selection size that matters, I can move those markers using the selection size, which in this case is 10. Let's move those left and uncheck that because, well, hey, that gives us an interesting little thing. So at this point, I'm moving things 10 seconds to the left, and it's telling me I'm going to lose one of my markers. So we're going to do that. And it's definitely not anywhere at 0, so I would have to actually go up to undo to bring that back. And while I think this isn't necessarily going to be useful in every instance, it does give us a very specific tool so that we can continue to develop workflows based around the use of markers. Now, prior to this particular tool, I had no way to globally move all of my markers. I couldn't just highlight and then drag. That would only drag the first one. So in this case, if I wanted to shift everything up by a second or two, I could move everything to the left by 2 seconds and have that affect everything. And certainly if I just wanted to adjust a few of the markers, that context-specific tool of only moving the markers in the selection lets me adjust just the points where I need to. So it does strike me as a very versatile tool, and it's a nice one to know that we have underneath our markers menu now. I hope that was helpful in going over the basics of this new update. This was 28.6, which came out in March of 2023 for Twisted Wave on macOS. Now, if you want to work directly with me to refine your Twisted Wave workflow, you can always reserve time through my JustAskJimVO.studio site. There's an easy link there to do that. We can connect for a new client 15-minute session or get together for more focused time together. I also do some group classes as well. The Twisted Wave Deep Dive comes up every couple of months, and we go deeply into a lot of the tools under the hood in Twisted Wave. So in the meantime, I want to thank you for your attention and go be brilliant.